download an A-Games formula.
3, 2, 1.
Hey all my Crimsonites, and welcome to the Crimson Cure channel, where we embrace our femininity, increase our womanly value, and celebrate our brothers. So join me on our feminine journey to learn, heal, and grow. Hey, how we doing? Let's get the likes up. You're gonna make me start out with the dance. You gotta bam, 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 bam. You gotta get the likes up. Bam, bam. You gotta Come on in. Thank you everybody for kicking it off with the super chats. Thank you, Walt Diddy. How you doing, sweetheart? Thank you, Beast Won't Win. Thank you so much. And thank you, Raquel. Thank you so much, sweetheart. How's everybody doing? Thank you, C, for posting the link to the glossary. So if you're new to my channel and you don't know quite some of the words that I'm using, click the link that my mods, It's Me C, has placed there. That's our glossary edition. And you can get it right from Amazon, so you can keep up on all of the terminology that I use here. Hey, TJ, how you doing, Mosaic? How you doing, sweetheart? So we actually going to get everything started today. I gotta scoot up. Cause we're gonna go in a little bit. Cause we're gonna talk about generational poverty. See, everybody talks about, well, black people don't have generational wealth. There's a reason for that. And unfortunately, black women had a lot to do with our lack of generational wealth as a people, because for the past few decades, our mothers and our mothers' mothers have been making certain decisions, and they have not been able to have foresight for those decisions. So we've landed in a place where several things are out of whack, and we aren't going to be able to get generational wealth. Because we think we can do this going the other way than what people actually do in order to get generational wealth, in order to maintain. So we're actually going to talk about that today. Y'all ready? I hope everybody's doing good. It's Friday. It's Friday and I'm ready to swing. Pick up my girls and hit the party scene. You know, I ain't never did that. Pick up no girls and hit no party scene. Anyway. Thank you, Notorious. Okay. Let's go ahead and get into it. So this is how Black women have supported generational poverty. So we're going to go back to the introduction and really the refinement of welfare programs, the entitlement programs, the excessive use of them, because it was under the administration of LBJ where these entitlement programs were really refined, right? And this was the Democratic Party, because if you remember, Kennedy was assassinated. Kennedy was a Democrat. So was LBJ, which was his vice president, which obviously he became president upon the assassination of JFK. But after the administration of LBJ was the Nixon administration. Now, although Nixon was a Republican, he actually bolstered these entitlement programs. And it was under his administration, Title IX. But we're not going to get into Title IX. We're not even going to get into Title 10 right now. We're going to stay with the entitlement programs. The 60s, as we know, some of us lived it, others of us learned it, was a super tumultuous time. Lots of stuff going on at that time, right? You had the Vietnam War during the 60s. You had the civil rights movement during the 60s. Okay? You had some key assassinations. I just mentioned JFK, but also during the 60s, Malcolm X and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. were also assassinated, right? Then you had the infiltration and the dismantling of other civil rights groups, which led into the 70s, right? So this is a tumultuous time, especially for Black people. Now, when we think about the condition of the Black family during this time in American history, we think about the condition of the men. A lot of our men were drafted and sent off to war in Vietnam, never to return. Okay? Leaving behind families, women, children, this sort of thing, because they were killed at war. For those of our men who actually made it back, they made it back in various states. Some of them could reintegrate back into civilian life. But then there were others of them that had a difficult time reintegrating into civilian life due to all of the traumas that they had experienced in war. Not including but not limited to PTSD, being experimented on, aka Agent Orange, these types of things, or just even if they had not been exposed to certain things, just the theater of war. Some of them came back maimed, body parts, missing an arm, missing a leg. Okay? Unable to receive proper care that the United States supposedly is ready to give war vets. Then you had the drug epidemic, the heroin epidemic. One moment, give me one moment. Thank you for holding on for me. Hey, Miss Danica, how you doing, sweetie? Thank you, beloved. Why my pad ain't working? I don't like that. Anyway. So you had the heroin epidemic that was sweeping through our communities, right? So today, the opioid epidemic is a health crisis for you know who. Back then, it was a criminal thing, right? It was horrible that we were doing it. But a lot of our war vets that had came home were self-medicating, thank you, D-Nice, because they could not receive the proper health care that was due to them after returning from war. Okay? This is important because due to the draft, the war coming back, that was the demographic of our black men, young ones, our force, right? And then domestically, we had our black men under the constant threat of death and extinction because they were fighting the civil rights fight. So we had the brothers here who didn't go to war. We had them here fighting that's in that civil rights situation. So we're talking about being put in jail. We're talking about lynched. We're talking about police brutality. We're talking about just being arrested and accosted and harassed and harangued. Okay. So our black men were facing these things both foreign and domestically. And it's well appreciated, Miss Danica. Thank you, sweetie. Just stopping through. We appreciate your presence, beloved. So this left the black woman and her child in a precarious situation, right? She has to find a way to take care of herself and take care of the children in the absence now of her husband for any of them aforementioned reasons. Right? Excuse me, my allergies want to, they doing a show as well. So please excuse me if you hear me getting kind of stuffed up. It's just my allergies. They want to do the show. But anyway. So we're talking about these confluence of events placing the black family on the precipice of like destruction. Then government comes in and saves the day to help alleviate some of the problems that people are facing financially because my husband has been killed in war. He can't come back and provide for this family. And if he physically makes it back, he might not be in position anymore mentally or emotionally to really do this like he did before he went off to war. So I'm saying all of this to frame why government coming in with these welfare programs and these entitlement programs were so tempting to black women at that time. Now, I can understand that. I actually can understand this position. Accepting these welfare programs, accepting these entitlement programs to keep food in your mouth, to keep a roof over your head, because your husband is not able for one or more of these reasons. But I got a real problem with the narrative that came after that. That black men just walked out on their families en masse for no reason. there was no precipitating cause other than the fact that black men are no account, no good, ne'er-do-wells that don't like their family, so they just walked out on their family and walked off into the sunset and left poor black women to fend for themselves, to fend for their children, and we ain't seen hide nor hair of black men since. See, that's the narrative that I don't like because it's false. I just gave you the major framework of what was going on during that time where these entitlement programs were really became robust. Just sign your name, just sign up. Black men did not just decide one day that we aren't going to take care of our families and we're just going to walk off. Where did they go? Where exactly did this mass drove of black men in the hundreds of thousands or in the millions, where did they go? Did they just disappear off the face of the earth? No, these men did not just decide that they weren't going to take care of their families. Meanwhile, it's something very important. Hold on one moment. I'll be right back. Okay. Thank you so much for hanging with me. I had to do something about these allergies. They really were trying to do the show with me. So we had black men being taken out systematically away from their families to break the integrity of the family, to break the backbone of the black family. Because see, when Zaddy came back from war and his woman needed help, she was allowed to take advantage of entitlement programs as well, but along with her husband. Black women were forced to prove that there was no man in the house, that she truly was destitute. And this is important for the show, that she had to prove the level of her being destitute before she could receive this help. Thank you, Lakeith. So she had to prove how destitute she was before she could take advantage and be given any of these entitlement programs. So when the social worker came by, it couldn't be no man in the house, and it couldn't even look like there was a man that was actually living in that house. So even though there were situations where black men and black women were actually together raising their kids, it caused a rift in the house because now he gotta act like he's not taking care of his family, and he has to be portrayed as if he's not taking care of his family in front of the state. I lived this. I remember when I was little and there being arguments in the house between my mother and father because she was on Section 8 and welfare and all this kind of stuff, and my daddy was working every day paying all the bills. But whenever the social worker would come by, he would have to take all his clothes, all his shoes, put them in a bag, and move out like he had never been there. So it came to the situation where my father was always living out of the bag. In the home that he was raising kids in, paying rent in, paying lights and gas, and buying food, and buying clothes and shoes, and all of this type of stuff, in that same household, he was not even afforded the luxury of putting his clothes in the dresser and leaving them there. You understand that my father was not alone in that. There were plenty of black men that had to do that in a house he was paying for. You know what I'm saying? He was paying that for us. But he would have to listen to her lie and tell the social worker that she didn't know where he was at. And that she was raising kids on her own. My mama ain't never been a single mother. We know who our daddy was. We wasn't never out of the loop as to who our daddy was. Our daddy was living with us. Now it was tumultuous a lot of times, but he was there. So I'm saying this because let's go forward a little bit. These entitlement programs have never been a road to success in terms of getting black people out of poverty. See, it wasn't designed to help us, you temporarily get it, you get the help you need, you get on your feet, you move on. That's not how these welfare and entitlement programs was designed to help black people. See, first of all, it wasn't designed to help black people. It was designed to keep us back. Because, see, it could have been used that way had they not made the policies where you couldn't have your man in the house and receive these benefits. The short-sightedness of our mothers and our mothers' mothers was that she couldn't understand that a struggle now meant better later, and that her children would actually have a better chance than her at living a better life. She wanted stuff right now. See, so let me tie that back to what was going on in the 60s. If you had a reason to do that, it was an emergency, I get it. So, but my question is, why is it 2021 and y'all still doing it? Why is it 2021 and you still taking advantage? It's not always necessarily in the form of Section 8 and welfare, but all of these different things that Zaddy give you, black woman, to catapult you ahead of black men, you still taking it. But there's really no reason to do that. It's become a self-fulfilling prophecy that the men aren't there. You put the men out. Do you know how demoralizing it must have been for my father and for other fathers from the people in my chat room that live this stuff. Do you know how demoralizing that had to be? That my whole family that I'm taking care of every day, I got some stranger that comes into my house that don't need to be there. I'm being lied on to say I don't take care of my family when that's all I do is break my back and take care of my family. That's all I do. You imagine how demoralizing that is? I distinctly remember that being a point of contention with my father, with my mom. Like, why do I have to live out of a bag? Don't I live here? Don't I stay here? Well, yeah, but, I'm trying to get this money. And he's like, you don't need it, is what I'm trying to tell you. I've been taking care of you since the 70s. Okay? You do not need no government money. You never have. I've never put you in a position where you needed that. We have never been pillar to post. We ain't never been hungry. We ain't never been homeless. And do you know when we started getting into that real poverty? When my father finally left. When he finally left, and now the money that she got is the money from them welfare things, and it was not hardly enough to pay for everything that was needed in that household. That's when we started really getting into, it's been days now and we ain't ate nothing. That's when we really started getting into that. When my father was no longer there providing every day. So now his provision is cut off to a certain degree. Now he only coming around so often to give us money. And then she cut that off by, you know what I'm saying, the whole drug thing. So then that limited him even further. I can't give her money in her hand because it's not going to go to the kids. Thank you, Ranger One. So why am I saying this? I'm saying this because these are the things that was happening to black families all across the nation. My situation was not unique. Unfortunately, it was common. It was common. Right? Thank you, Roger Report. So black men, even when they were doing everything that they were supposed to do as fathers and as husbands, were still had to carry the stigma of abandoners of their families. Black men don't like their families. Black men get black women pregnant and then leave their families. Thank you, Notorious. This is the narrative that black men had to carry, even though that really wasn't what the majority of them was even doing. Thank you, Percy. Hold on 1 second again. I'm sorry. My allergies are really, really kicking up really badly. Like, I'm not feeling well. Can we get the likes up, please? I got 418. I got 293 likes. Can we get the likes up? Bam, 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 bam. I'm not feeling well. I'm sorry. Okay. So I'm going to try to continue. Thank you, Rubenette. Okay. I'm going to try to continue my thought. So I forget where I was at. So we have a situation where our black men are having to carry the L of the narrative going around about them that they just abandoned their families, right? Thank you, Eugene. It's just my allergies, but it's like a head cold. Anyway, I'm going to try not to focus on that. Okay, so part of supporting generational poverty is choosing to accept these crumbs from the government over placing your support behind your black men so that we can get ahead as a group of people. Excuse me. Thank you, Mosaic. Instead of throwing your support behind black men so that us as a family unit could actually move ahead and progress, black women decided we're going to take the crumbs off of Zaddy's table. That's what we're going to do. This demonstrates several things that women lack. It demonstrated a lack of understanding. It demonstrated a lack of foresight. It demonstrated a lack of knowledge of mobility and wealth. Thank you, Clyde. Okay. Thank you, Ranger One. Black women in general, but since I'm talking about black women, we don't have the foresight. Thank you, Ape King. We don't have the foresight. See, our mothers couldn't see 10 or 15 or 20 years into the future to say, if we continue to prefer what Zaddy gives us over and above having to deal with our men so that we could keep our family structures intact. And it may be a struggle now, but in the generations to come, we're not going to have these struggles. Black women didn't see that. They was only thinking about right now. Right now, I could get this little money. Right now, we can. It was always like a scheme. Like the first of our foremothers that did it, they weren't trying to scam the government. They actually needed some of that stuff. But as the years went by, it became a generational thing for black women to be on welfare. They would pass that down like you supposed to pass down knowledge of womanhood and femininity and being a wife and getting a husband. See, this is where that I don't need no man actually came from. See, this is how it started. And feminism bolstered that. Thank you, Marcel. Feminism boasted that, but at the same time, they're thinking, oh, if I can get this stuff from the government, you just got to sign here and sign there and do this and do that, and you can get X amount of money a month from the government. They're not thinking about this is not wealth. This is a cap, because what does welfare do? Welfare caps you. You can't just start making a bunch of money. And a lot of times, black women are too silly to realize that if you had actually stayed with your man for all of this time, you actually would have more money now than what the government, the state caps you off at. So if they giving you X amount of dollars, you can't go work. See, this is how that generational poverty actually took root in the Black community. Because when you are in these entitlement programs, you cannot go and get these jobs that's gonna pay you, and you can't have that income coming into your house. They can't be able to pull the taxes and stuff and see, oh, this is the income that's being pulled into this household. And you too dumb to realize, let go of the little piece of change so you could get the big money. Goofball. A whole goof nut. Thank you, 39 Deanna. You a whole goof nut. You ain't thought about one time. And see, this shows a lack of black women understanding mobility. See, your mama didn't understand it, and you still don't understand it now. Because they still entice Black women with all of these little programs that do what? That do not help. That don't help generational wealth. It only supports generational poverty, because they started with taking your men out and you welcome them out. You're glad that the men are gone. You sit here and cap like you want strong Black male leadership, but that's not really what you want, because strong Black male leadership actually put a stop to all of this foolishness that you do. So you want to be able to do what you want to do. All right? You got a sip of a taste of not being underneath the structure of a man. And then you went out and told the world that Black men were oppressing you in these homes. You ain't never been oppressed by Black men. You had structure, you mean? You mean you wasn't able to do whatever with whoever, whenever? You mean you wasn't able to raise them kids however you saw fit, and he wasn't gonna say nothing? You mean he had order and some control over what was going on? Then all of a sudden you able to po mouth to Becky and act like you can commiserate with her on the oppression of patriarchy, as if Black men and white men ever shared power in this country. This is the foolishness that we talking about. Right? Now they give you little programs to go to school. They give you incentives to be single mothers, to have children. They give you incentives to keep your family in shambles, to keep the men away, to keep yourself in a perpetual cycle of single motherhood, which in and of itself breeds poverty. And then on top of it all, for those of you who go to school and get the money and all that kind of stuff, that stuff still don't turn into generational wealth, even if you build businesses and stuff like that, because what do most women do with their money? We consumers. So you're going to spend your money in consumerism. You're not going to have appreciating assets that can be passed down to your children. You're not going to do that, because you're too busy buying Birkin bags and trying to live it up and trying to act like this is the type of stuff that you need to do that signify wealth. Having all of them name brand things and a fancy car and a fancy pair of shoes and all that, that just proves how gullible you are to be a consumer for all of these name brands. These people don't need you to buy their stuff. Half of them don't even want you buying it. You don't really know how to save your money, and you don't really know how to acquire wealth. Most of y'all got them little high-paying jobs, but you live paycheck to paycheck just like a poor person. See, your wealth don't have nothing to do with your income. And this is further the misunderstanding that Black women have about wealth. Wealth don't got nothing to do with your income. Just because you make 6 figures doesn't mean that you're going to all of a sudden catapult into the area of wealth. See, Zaddy know you a consumer. All he got to do is market to you. And tell you that you'll look good and you'll be regarded this way and that way if you have this thing and that thing, name brand, if you can wear a certain type of shoes or you can wear a certain type of jewelry, drive a certain type of car, or live in a particular place. And that's all that y'all do. Y'all will get businesses and they'll fold. You don't care. You got kids. And you can't say I'm lying, because if it were true that the way in which black women were going about this and that her being the one to get the education and get the money was helpful to the black community, then where's our generational wealth? Y'all been doing it for enough generations for us to see the improvement in black people. Where's that improvement? I'll be back. My apologies. I'm sorry. I keep having to stop. I'm allergic to Midwest air. And that sounds funny, but it's real. Hey, Scar King. Thank you, sweetie. I'm literally allergic to air. To this air. This Midwest air. Okay. So, I'm sorry. I'll try to talk through it because I know I sound really, really congested. Thank you, Joe from DC. Okay. So, you really should beware of being catapulted in front of the men, because that has not led to generational wealth. And if it was going to lead to that, we would see the upturn in everybody in a community, but it's not. So your money only serves you, and not very well, because even if you're making six figures, if you're also in debt, that's not no money. Debts are liabilities that pull away from your money. And getting a job don't help nothing. I ain't never seen nobody be able to pass down no job and no wheel. I ain't never been able to see that. I ain't never seen that. You can pass down a business that you own, a family business or something, but you ain't passing down that little bootleg job you at work with. Pushing them little pencils and checking them little emails. That ain't no thing you can pass down. You don't run that company. You understand what I'm saying? I know I got to sound so congested. I could hear it. You don't know what you're doing with the money. Truth be told, the majority of black women do not know what to do with money. And this is what we're dealing with with the generational poverty. You pass down not only the generational curse, but the poverty. The generational poverty is part of the curses. Because what you don't understand is that your children have to start over every generation. Every generation, we got to start from scratch. We're not getting a leg up. And because you refuse to step back and say, you know what, I'm going to take my proper position, and the men come in and put order back into everything, instead of doing that, you done took a sip from the cup of quote unquote freedom and power. So now there's no way you want black men to come in and do anything. That's cap. Y'all sitting here lying, talking about y'all want strong black man leadership. No, you don't. This has led to the overall struggle that we are dealing with as a group. And you still ain't learned your lesson because you still support the poverty, because you still are doing the things that lead to the poverty. You still doing it. You having free rent in the worst part of town where there's shootings every day. That's not winning, mama. That's not winning. You didn't win nothing. Yeah, you ain't got to pay no rent, but your kids get shot at as they walk to the school that's a couple of blocks away just to not get an education when they get up in there. Okay? So you not winning nothing. You having all that Section 8 stuff, then a man come along and try to hassle, well, I don't need you, I'm doing it by myself. No, you are not. You are not doing anything by yourself when you got to answer to a social worker, okay, in a dirty little empty office that ain't got nothing but 5 little folded chairs in it and they mismatched. And it's either a white lady or it's another one of you gynocrats that's got a no in her mouth for everything that you asked for. That's not winning. You're not doing it by yourself. You're not doing anything by yourself except for ruining the next generation of black people. That's what you're doing by yourself. Ruining everything. Then when things are ruined, when somebody force you to stand up and look at the carnage that has gone on, then you want to talk about how black men should have stepped in and how they should have been leaders and why did they let you do that? Why did they let black women, why did they let black women do this? And y'all say that as if black men are supposed to risk life and limb forcing you to do stuff that you know you supposed to do anyway. Why he got to come in, he got to make you submit. He got to make you raise your kids right. He got to make you, like what's wrong with y'all? On the one hand, y'all grown and can't nobody tell y'all nothing. And on the next hand, the other hand, you got to be made to do stuff, you know what I'm saying, like a pet. Like you train a dog or something. You know, beat it when it don't do what you want it to do and all that kind of stuff. Like, is that what you really want black men to start doing? Because if you start doing that, you ain't gonna do nothing but call Zaddy and say, how black men is doing you wrong. Ain't nobody got time to be twisting your arm to do stuff that you supposed to do. Why somebody got to twist your arm to raise your kids properly? Why somebody got to twist your arm just to tell you, listen, we can get ahead if we do things like this. Don't you want to be ahead? You're the most backwards section of women that I ever heard of. That don't want to be ahead. Or you want to be ahead on your own terms. But then you redefine what being ahead actually is. Black women think being ahead is just them being able to get a couple of dollars and live the way they want to live, quote unquote, without no supervision, like a bad little kid. That's what y'all think is getting ahead. And it's not. And then you want to take a look whenever you do pull your head out the sand. You do want to take a look at what other people are doing to actually have better lives as the generations go on. That's how immigrants do it. They come here 2 generations ago with nothing. They may get a little handout from the government, but they don't just rely on that. They actually make something out of that. And they keep their family dynamics together. They don't actually sell their family value out. They actually keep and maintain that. Why? Because they understand that generational wealth is passed from hand to hand, down the lineage, down the line. You don't cut it off. You keep it going. You build the momentum. The immigrants that came over from wherever they came over from, pick a country, may not have had a whole lot, but what they were thinking about was 2 generations from now, our grandchildren are going to be running this whole part of the city. We setting the foundation up now, and we may struggle now. It might not be fun. This isn't going to be a easy road for us to do. It's going to be a lot of hungry days, a lot of long work days, a lot of days where that woman's husband is not at home, a lot of days she ain't at home. But at the end of it, they've set the foundation to where they kids can pick up the mantle. And now you continue on. Or if you don't do the family business, I've given you enough where you can do something, and then your kids, our grandkids, still get benefited. The point is not to have our children and our children's children starting over from scratch. We don't want them to do that. Only black people do that. And it's because women have been in charge of the community for the past 60 years. And it ran it in the ground. And that's the bottom line. You can blame black men. You can say black men didn't do this or they did do that. And we can sit here and recognize what kind of issues black men have. We certainly can do that. But at the same time, what culpability have black women had with this? So listen, this is how we're going to have to bring the men back into the home. We're not going to be able to get out of this in any other way. We can't do it by ourselves. You can't. It's been enough decades to prove it. You can't do it because you don't know how. So men have to be invited back into the home, and not out of spite. You got to actually switch over the value system to start valuing families again. But that's hard to do when y'all are on YouTube talking about whether or not you should birth any more black males. As if you ain't raising them. So with that being said, are we ready to admit that you don't know how to raise no men? And that men need to raise men? And if we know that, are we ready to invite men back into the home to be a part of the actual family structure now? Are we admitting failure with that? Because that's what it sounds like to me. Now, it sounds like, as appalling as it is, it sounds like failure to me. Sounds like I failed at being able to raise adequate men by myself. So boys need to be raised by their father. But instead of saying boys need to be raised by their father, you rather not birth them. That's the stupidest stuff in the whole wide world. But anyway, you know what I'm saying? You done lost your bang. You done lost it. Thank you, Jacob. You come up with the most asinine solutions. Still ain't got no foresight. You got to have family value in order to get to wealth. This is why the 10 life values are structured the way that they are structured. Family, everything on there come before wealth. Everything. Family is number 3. You want to jump all the way to wealth and don't do nothing with your family. You can't do that. That's gonna work. You cannot have the wealth without the family value. You can't have it. You can't skip steps. Always try to skip steps. Then you don't want nobody to say, you're at the bottom. You are at the bottom. If somebody's trolling in the chat, I don't know what they're saying. So if it's a troll, handle it. If it's not a troll, then whatever. But anyway, we have to be able to come out of it through a value system. Because that's how we got into it. We got into all these methods by bartering away our value system and taking on what Zaddy said was valuable. It hasn't done anything but ruin us. Ruin. So at what point are we going to realize that we cannot keep doing the same thing and get a different result? It's not going to work. So what's different? We have to have a different value system. It starts with what? Spiritual. We have to deal with our health. We have to deal with our family. Everything on that list comes before wealth. You try to obtain wealth by sacrificing all 9 of the other values, and it doesn't work that way. Anyway, I want to apologize for my allergies, and they wanted to do the show as well. But I tell you what, don't get allergies. A-game. That doesn't have allergies. What it has is 21 awesome herbs that are for a man's vitality, his strength, his energy, and his libido by addressing his blood flow. So if you want to be part of the A-Game family, all you have to do is click the link that's pinned at the top of the chat, agameherbal.com, and you can use a code Kendra10 in order to get a 10% discount off of your next purchase. So you can have this wonderful product delivered to you ASAP. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Beginners Channel. Thank you, everyone, for your super chats and for your cash apps and for having patience with my allergies today. Thank you, Keith. And just thank you for your support. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Bye-bye, Kryptonites. Hey, guys. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. And if you've got more to say on the topic, leave a comment down below. Also, don't forget to support our sponsor, who so graciously supports this channel by clicking the description box and the link for A-Game at agameherbal.com. You can go ahead and get a 10% discount off of your next purchase using the code Kendra10. This has been yet another Crimson Cure production, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.